Ever hand out a vocab list on Monday and get blank stares by Friday?
Yeah, and if memorizing definitions actually worked, we wouldn't be doing this episode.
In this week's episode of Science Solutions, we're flipping how we think about science vocabulary. Welcome back to Science Solutions, where we talk about teaching strategies that make a real difference in the science classroom.
Today's episode is all about helping students really learn science vocabulary, not just memorize it. We're diving into the idea of moving beyond the definition to make vocabulary stick.
So here's the thing. We've all handed out vocabulary lists or asked students to look up definitions from the glossary. But let's be honest, how much of that actually sticks?
Right? Memorizing terms in isolation doesn't usually lead to a deeper understanding. And in science, vocabulary is so tied to the concepts, it's not just about the words, it's about what those words represent.
Exactly. So instead of front-loading vocabulary, the approach we're talking about today flips it. Students explore first and then learn the terminology. It's called Explore Then Explain, and it's transformative, especially for your multilingual learners.
And that's a familiar term we've been using with NGSS Aligned Instruction, exploring phenomenon before we try to explain it. Now we're just applying it to the vocabulary, right? Let's break it down. Why does this approach work so well?
First, it gives context. When students engage in a hands-on activity or investigation, they build a mental model. Then, when you introduce vocabulary afterward, they have something to connect it to.
And it invites participation, right? Multilingual learners, and well, really any student, can contribute ideas using their own words to explain or observe things. You don't have to have the right term to be able to be part of the learning.
Yeah, and it really mirrors what scientists actually do. They don't have a word bank. They take the time to investigate phenomena and use observations to explain what is actually happening.
Yes, plus, when students use vocabulary in context, they're writing about it, they're modeling it, they're discussing it. All of those things build fluency and reinforces that understanding.
And that brings us to inclusivity. These strategies don't just help multilingual learners. They work for everyone. Visuals, sentence stems, drawings, graphic organizers. These are tools that make language accessible for all learners.
Another tip, modify student notebooks. I found a new strategy called split notes that I had never heard of before. That looks like it might be really helpful for students' understanding. Using simplified prompts and other opportunities to draw or label what they are seeing or experiencing can really help reduce the language load without getting rid of the rigor.
In science, vocabulary words are fundamentally concepts. They often label complex scientific ideas or phenomena that students may not have prior knowledge of. These are often Tier 3 words where the concept itself is unknown, requiring the word to be situated within a system of ideas that needs to be developed.
And this is really different than how learning vocabulary happens in reading or other content areas, where words might label a concept the student already is familiar with. And the focus is more on providing a new label or nuance for them to know that concept. In science, the word is the label for the core conceptual understanding being built.
And remember, helping students speak the language of science is not about definitions. It's about doing science and building language from there. It's another lens of NGSS, New Goals for Science Scholars.
So what about doing those crossword puzzles and word searches, those fun kinds of things? Should we stop doing those kinds of activities with the kids?
There is absolutely no reason to have to give those sorts of things up. However, those should not be the first thing that you give students. Those are going to be those reinforcers that you have. So after you've done the explore and the explain, if you want to help students think about vocabulary in a different way, word searches are great for spelling. That would be another way to include those, again, after they've learned the words themselves.
So concept before definition.
Exactly.
Right. All right. So thanks for tuning in to Science Solutions. If you found it useful, share it with a colleague and subscribe to get notified when our next episode comes out. Sign up and receive Science Solutions in your inbox to access resources, reflection questions, and actionable insights.
Until next time, keep inspiring students and making shift happen. You've got this.